This year, in the 2020 presidential election, we have all seen firsthand that there is clear partisanship within our politics. Over the course of time, many aspects of our country have become extremely partisan, even the one discipline we would have never thought to become political, which is our Supreme Court. With the current debates in our country, I've become more interested in being politically engaged on topics such as Supreme Court packing. After conducting much research, I will explain why Supreme Court packing is a negative action for our country from the different lenses of our founding fathers' opinions, historical precedent, past occurrences, and the increased partisanship within our courts. Since the country was founded in 1776, our politicians today and throughout the course of time have referenced back to the original tensions of the people who kickstarted the new nation with their ideals. Throughout the years of 1777 and 1778, Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay wrote a series of journals called the Federalist Papers, which defended the United States Constitution. A few of these papers, mainly written by Hamilton, were about their intentions of the Supreme Court. Specifically, in Federalist number 78, Hamilton wrote, "It is far more rational to suppose that the courts were designed to be an intermediate body between the people and the legislature, in order, among things, to keep the latter within their limits assigned to their authority." So in simpler terms, Hamilton is talking about how the ideals of the legislature and the people of the country are to be kept separate from each other. This is because the purpose of the Supreme Court is a nonpartisan upholding of the law. Also, in Federalist 78, he noted, "In other words, the Constitution ought to be preferred to the statute, the intention of the people to the intention of their agents." This statement supporting the same claim he made previously about the separation of the courts from public opinion and outside influences. Another founding father that supported a separate Supreme Court was George Mason. Similar to Hamilton in his beliefs, Mason was a Jeffersonian Republican that pushed for defending Americans' rights and liberties against encroachment, particularly by an overbearing national government. With that said, he believed that the Supreme Court's major purpose was to prevent such overstepping. These claims are supported by one of his most famous quotes when he said, "No free government or the blessings of liberty can be preserved to any people but by frequent recurrence to fundamental principles." These two founding fathers' intentions of the Supreme Court show us that the decisions being made would reflect solely on the U.S. Constitution rather than by party lines. Packing the Supreme Court would directly go against their intentions and the original vision of the Supreme Court set by the founders of our nation. Since the founders of our nation set the framework for the workings of our Supreme Court, there has been an underlying precedent of the number of judges on the court being kept smaller. According to National Geographic, in the court's first 80 years, there are 7 changes of the number of justices on the court. They had a low of 5 and a maximum of 10. Over the 80 years, there was never a year where the number of justices was over 10. In fact, the number of 10 justices was only kept around for 3 years and has been 9 ever since that change in 1866. Also, in 2016, when questioned about the vacancy of a Supreme Court seat, Texas Senator Ted Cruz said, there is certainly a long historical precedent for a Supreme Court with few justices." This claim is supported by the fact that in the 231 years that the Supreme Court has been around, about 99% of the time, it has contained less than 10 justices. Throughout the years of shifts in justices, in 1937, there was an explicit attempt to pack the court by President Roosevelt. In order to pass New Deal legislation that was getting struck down by the Supreme Court, FDR proposed a plan to add 6 more justices to the court as a political ploy to pass legislation. FDR's plan, called the Judicial Procedures Reform Bill of 1937, failed drastically as the law got struck down 70 to 20, and also even Supreme Court justices spoke negatively about it publicly. Barbara A. Perry, the director of presidential studies at the University of Virginia, said that Congress and the people viewed FDR's ill-considered proposal as an undemocratic power grab. Over the course of the history of the United States, historical precedent and the only occurrence of an attempt to pack the court prove how unpopular and how unjust Supreme Court packing truly is. Although, as previously mentioned, Supreme Court packing is seen as a negative from the perspectives of the original intentions of our founders, historical precedent, and a past occurrence, there is a valid point in the opposing side's argument. The argument is that court packing is 100% constitutional, which it is. The U.S. Constitution leaves the number of justices on the Supreme Court up to discussion and never really explicitly says how many justices there has to be. This idea is correct, but if you dig a little deeper into this problem, one will see that there are a few flaws to this claim. The group of people that are making this claim say that adding more Supreme Court justices will create less partisanship. This claim is false. This is because our Supreme Court nowadays has become shrouded in partisanship, and adding more justices to the court will not solve this problem, but even make it worse. According to Stanford Politics, the number of Supreme Court decisions that have become considered partisan have increased 200% in the last 80 years compared to the previous 80 years. A partisan decision is considered when the court votes directly in party lines, making it a 5-4 verdict. On top of this, every single decision made in the 2014 to 2015 term was decided directly on party lines. So in a nutshell, despite that adding Supreme Court justices is for sure constitutional, it doesn't necessarily mean that is the right thing to do given the current partisanship of the highest court in our country. We have seen in history that the people that created our nation intended a nonpartisan Supreme Court which goes directly against current ideas of adding justices for partisan purposes. Also, we have seen in 1937 how Supreme Court packing is an undemocratic power grab for the presidents. On other instances, we have seen how precedent states that having fewer justices on the court is preferred, and that the current partisanship of our court does not make the solution for adding more justices valid. With these reasons listed from the beginning of our nation to current times, is why the Supreme Court will be is why packing the Supreme Court will be an overall negative for Republicans and Democrats, the public, and especially the direction of decision-making process in the Supreme Court. Going into 2021 with new leadership personnel, I urge Joe Biden and his staff to not add to the problem at hand and restrain from adding justices to the court. Thank you for listening today.